seconds and counting.
Hey, what's good, yo? Welcome back to another video. It's Anish. I'm joined with Drew, and today we're going to be going over some player visits that the Texans have had over the past couple of days. And before we begin, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below for more Texans content. And so, some of the players that have visited the Texans facility or that will visit the Texans facility are Treylon Burks, Kvon Thibodeaux, Walker, Sauce, Kyer Elam, Kenyon Green, Terrell Bernard, and Derek King. Let's just so before I start, these visits, they're not necessarily workouts, but they're like the teams like to try to take like either physicals, get like their own like team physicians do kind of like a checkup on them, get their own like injury data and things like that, so there isn't any confusion. They also like try to, what they do in these visits, they like go over films, try to see why, like what a player is thinking during a certain play, like trying to see their thought process, get to know them better. They aren't necessarily doing a workout in these kinds of situations, but from what I've like seen or have heard, but it's just kind of like getting to know them better. So Drew, the first player on our list is Treylon Burks. He's apparently supposed to visit in the next coming days, and he's apparently visiting with like over a third of the league, which is absolutely insane. So there's a lot of league interest. So what do you think about Treylon Burks being a possible Houston Texan?
Yeah, and I think that'd be an interesting fit. So we know that Pep Hamilton in Indianapolis, he was kind of a deep threat, play action, short passes as an extension of the run game. And what stands out to me is those, extension of the run game. Treylon Burke, a lot of his production came from the slot, on screen passes, on jet sweeps. He had 112 rushing yards. So just those short passes. He did it better of taking that to the crib or getting big gains off that, pretty much as good as any wide receiver in college football this past year. So I can see the thought process of that fit and what they might be looking for. And this is the first wide receiver that we know of that's visiting with the Texans. The Texans were also at Christian Watson's pro day. It was an interesting yak threat, elite athleticism, kind of a unicorn player, the North Dakota State wide receiver who can also go, late first, early second. So it kind of shows me the Texans are committed to Pep's scheme and what he wants to do, allowing Pep to get players that he wants. Treylon Burks could absolutely go at 13. He could go before. Like Anish said, a lot of teams are interested in him. I think he's got really good hands. Like I said, great after the catch. His frame is really good too. He's 6'3", very, very strong. To me, his pro comparison is Deebo Samuel, with a little bit of shades of AJ Brown. Everything comes together for Treylon Burks. He has the potential to be the best receiver out of anyone in this class. So I think that'd be great, and I would not mind taking him at 13, and especially if they use him correctly. That's the main thing here with Treylon Burks. If you use him correctly, he will be the best receiver in this entire draft class.
And I've even seen some people compare him to the great Andre Johnson too, which is absolutely insane. But like, absolutely, this dude is like a athletic specimen. Apparently, he didn't test really well at the combine, like other people imagined, like expected. They had super high expectations, but he still tested like generally pretty solid. And so, I think this would be an interesting selection. But a lot of people have him as their wide receiver number one, like a very small proportion of like the draft community, I guess. But like he absolutely dominated college football. Like, so I definitely wouldn't be mad if the Texans were to select him. But yeah, it would be an interesting choice to say the least. And then some of the guys who we could look at the top three. Kvon Thibodeaux visited the Texans recently. There's been a lot of controversy about Kvon Thibodeaux, about like the things that he says in interviews. But one thing you can't deny is the talent. He's definitely very, very talented. Drew, what do you think about Kvon?
Yeah, I mean, controversial is probably the way to put it right now. Fans are split, scouts are split. I'm sure people in the front office are split, because of his interview and, the workout for the combine. But if we're just being real here, he's before all these questions came out, he was the most decorated defensive end prospect since Myles Garrett, and there wasn't really another guy before that other than like Jadeveon Clowney, players like that. So the potential to me is off the charts because his pass rushing moves aren't necessarily fully developed. It's just that when he was in the Pac-12, there's just plays where he's physically dominating these linemen, bull rushing them, speed rushing them. If he can just refine his hands with a good defensive line coach, which I believe the Texans do have in Jacques here, he could be absolutely insane. He's a pretty good run defender. When his motor is on, that's a big question mark. I believe he has a very high motor where he can make plays, he can chase people down, he can pancake the blocker, put him on his butt. He's got elite burst, like I said, a great bull rush, and his bend is pretty much as good as it gets in this draft class, which a lot of these other guys like Jermaine Johnson, Aiden Hutchinson just don't really have on them.
Yeah, so let me just share a few clips of just Kvon Thibodeaux just absolutely destroying like competition. So there he goes for the sack. I think there was a quote earlier this morning or whatever, like, oh, whatever the coach, I'll put it up on the screen maybe, but like he's like whatever, like if I make a mistake, I know is like something that like a coach doesn't have to tell me that. I mean, when I look at it, it's like when you make a mistake or when you feel like you don't know something, like when you don't know something for the most part. Like say you're learning like a new skill, like oh yeah, I need to get better at this or I need to study this, and so I think that's what Kayvon's saying, like when he's saying like oh like I know when I mess up basically. So and he has really great reviews from like his coaches, fellow teammates. So I don't feel like it's not like him saying he doesn't want to be coached. It's just him saying like he knows what he does wrong, but and then also said he's open to like learning and adding more pass rush moves to his toolkit. So I think you can't be mad at that. So um, yeah, so like yeah, Kayvon Thibodeaux, yeah, a very controversial choice, but a lot of people like he could very well be the number one overall pick. Like the Jaguars might surprise everyone, and like not just select Aiden Hutchinson might even go for Thibodeaux because of the ceiling that he has. He has the highest ceiling in this draft class, arguably. So there's some concerns there with Kayvon. I wouldn't be completely. I mean, people are looking too much on the cons, honestly, and they aren't looking at who actually is Kvon Thibodeaux. They're like, oh, like yeah, he only cares about his brand or whatnot. But like, those are the things we kind of like said about players for not having a backup plan or things like that. And honestly, he's probably the one who's just saying it out loud, than like some players who just like internally have those mind, like those thoughts. So sorry for the rant there about Kayvon, but that's just what I think right now. Obviously, opinions can change, but that's how I currently feel. And then the Texans also had a visit from Trayvon Walker, who I believe visited like the top five, top six teams in the NFL draft. So he also has a considerable amount of draft hype. He was like initially started as like a low first round pick, and then has somehow become even like the number one overall pick in some people's mock drafts. So, um, what do you think about Trayvon Walker on this team?
Yeah, so it's weird, he's the guy who I think deserves a little bit more, hate than what we see from Kayvon Thibodeaux. I guess some could say that, Walker has more potential. He has a little bit bigger frame. He's 6'5", 6'6", 275. Pretty much already set in stone as the best run defender in the draft, but his pass rush moves is pretty much non-existent. I could see him maybe being able to bull rush a tight end or left tackle in a five tech. But in Georgia, they're using a multiple scheme. They're doing stunts. You have two of the best defensive tackles, Jordan Davis and Deontay Wyatt, in college football, helping you out. Even Kobe Dean blitzing. So he has the stats there for that reason. I don't exactly understand the hype. Like the frame, the size, and the speed may be there as the potential to make him a superstar. But other than that, I don't see much from Trayvon Walker. I think that if you're gonna pass on a guy like Sauce or Kevin Thibodeaux, Trayvon Walker, that's going to be a little disappointing to me because I just don't see it with Trayvon Walker. He's still a fantastic player, and he may as well go number one overall just because of the attributes that he has in his game and the potential that he has in his game. But man, it's hard for me to say that I want to pick Trayvon Walker, the third overall pick in the NFL draft at this point.
Yeah, I think with Trayvon Walker, you're really banking on like, can you learn pass rush moves? And that's just something like as a rebuilding team, I guess you do have the time for it to like teach someone, but like again, it's just like, do we want to take that risk? And so yeah, Trayvon Walker, I can play a few like a short clip of this. I won't play this whole clip, but just like yeah, like you said, Drew, like he was on like a pretty talented defense. So so yeah, like the fact that he wasn't able to showcase much of what he could actually do is like leaves a lot
Yeah, I
of
mean, you see it right there. I mean, they're running stunts on the defensive line. He's just faster and stronger. That's kind of why we get most of his success from.
yeah. So yeah, here's just another clip. Just starting on the I believe on the left. Yeah. So
Yeah, on the left. And that's a stunt.
yeah, but like look, he like absolutely like bull rush. Um
Right, and I think another thing there, like when you're running stunts, you have to be able to have the versatility to win against the guards and the centers. So, he has the potential to play the three tech and the five tech, four I, which is probably most players in draft can't do. But I, you know, I just think that it's a little risky at this point for a team like the Texans to be taking him.
yeah, but I think with these visits they could be like kind of like going over film with him per se and seeing like what like he would do, how does he like diagnose these plays, things like that. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, Trayvon Walker, there's no motor concerns like Thibodeaux. There's like all these they like he doesn't have the same reflex as Thibodeaux, which is what and he has like arguably like better athleticism, but like versus like it's like a game of inches almost like it's not even like it's not like that much more because Kvon Thibodeaux is also athletically gifted in my opinion as well. So it's just like it's like tomato tomato, right? Like it's not that much of a difference. So like if it were to come down to it, I think I would personally draft Kvon because like he's been regarded as a consensus top player whereas Trayvon like he just got his like stock boost because of the combine. If it was because of like the Senior Bowl, um, I don't know if you heard anything about Trayvon Walker at the Senior Bowl. I don't know if he was there, but if it was because of the Senior Bowl, that's like another story. Because the Senior Bowl risers, like they usually like hit more than they like bust, in my opinion. So I think that's just something to consider about Walker versus Kayvon. What where to go with at three, and so another player that visited the Texans was Sauce Gardner. We did record a video on him, and then Kyrie Elam was also another corner. So it does seem to look like Lovey Smith and company have their own preference of like who they want at cornerback. Drew, what do you think about those two prospects?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. That's exactly what Lovie Smith wants in a corner. They're both over 6'2". They play physical. They use their length. Um, obviously Texans do run a Tampa too, but Lovie Smith does also want a player that can, lock down an entire side of the field and play man coverage. So yeah, I'm glad that he says that too. It shows he's willing to adjust a little bit more. And maybe that's Nick Casario talking, and that maybe they've had those discussions too. But still, I think that those two players are the indicament of the cornerback you're going to see the Texans go after. I think Kyrie Lamb is probably going to go in the late first. If Texas could grab him at 37, they won't hesitate if he's there. And Sauce Gardner could very well be the Texans' pick at 3. He keeps rising up the boards. He had a great combine, great pro day. Talked to Lovie Smith at his pro day. He visited with the Texans. He has that swagger that you just want in a superstar player. He gives me he really does give me Jalen Ramsey vibes, and we've seen what Jalen Ramsey did for the Jaguars and their franchise. And we've seen what he's done for the Rams franchise and just the energy that he brings. So I think he'd be really exciting for the franchise. I would not be mad if they took him at 3. it would be interesting to a cornerback at 3, but I think he's just one of those can't miss players that kind of has everything at this point. He does need to work on his tackling form. I don't like the way he just kind of slings people down instead of form tackling. That's my only really concern. Kyrie Lamb does tend to hold and be a little too physical sometimes. Those are my only two concerns in those guys, but I would not be surprised if all the Texans take those guys. And it's important to look at these visits when you see the Texans, kind of target those certain players that are kind of similar. Just kind of gives you an idea of where they're going. And really, right now, the signs point to the Texans going defense, with their first pick.
Yep. And lastly, we'll just quickly go over like the last three prospects we want to talk about. Just give me your thoughts on Kenyon Green, Terrell Bernard, and De'Aaron King. There are some guys we can target in the later rounds.
Yeah, so Kenyon Green is a very scheme versatile player. He can play right tackle. He can play both guard positions. It's important that he can also play in a zone scheme, power gap scheme. He's got a good anchor ability, good in his hips, good hands, great lateral mobility. I really like what I'm seeing from him. You got De'Aaron King. He played quarterback at U of H. He played quarterback in Miami after that. Teams are going to be interested in him playing wide receiver just because he's so athletic. He's pretty elusive, good with the ball in his hands. When we've seen when he runs at quarterback. In terms of the Texans, I think they're just going to probably keep him at quarterback. They kept Jeff Driscoll at quarterback, so if they got Derek King, I'm not exactly sure if they're going to experiment with that. We did see Greg Ward, the Eagles wide receiver. He played quarterback at U of H and transferred wide receiver. So you never know. I think he's got a lot of athleticism. But to me, he's really going to go in the 7th round or undrafted free agency. So it'd be cool to just mess around, see what you can bring out of him. And then the last guy, what is
Terrell Bernard.
who's the last guy? Terrell Bernard. Yes, Terrell Bernard, very high IQ. He should be able to play the will position. Pretty fast linebacker, good coverage linebacker. Had a really great career at Baylor, so lots of potential there. I think he'd be a solid addition to the defense, and I'm not surprised that Lovey and company is already a little bit interesting and solid player.
Yeah, all these prospects are really names that are very intriguing. So you can kind of get some insight on like who's higher on the draft board for the Texans because you usually give these visits to like guys you like, get to know them more. So you're like trying to make sure you're getting the right pick. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Let us know your thoughts on these visits, and as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Thank y'all for watching. Peace.